Hello there, I'm Tabletop Toby, and today we're going to be doing a review of Deep Dive. This is a pressure luck game where you're penguins diving for food that's worth different points. There's 5 different levels. The points at the top of the shallowest depths are worth less. The points at the bottom and the deepest depths are worth more, but the risk is greater as you go down, so it's a classic pressure luck mechanic. Do you go for the easy points and start building from there, or do you risk going deeper and getting more points, but maybe you won't get any points? It's definitely a lighter, more filler game. It takes up to 6 players, which is great because you can enjoy the successes of yourself and your friends, or you can hate them for their successes as well if you're a competitive type and you wonder why that friend is so lucky over and over and over again, and you're starting to resent them and you can't stand looking at them. Why did you invite them over? But I've never experienced that, so I don't know what I'm talking about. We'll start with a quick explanation of how the game works. Speaking of, if you want a more thorough explanation and also a solo playthrough so you can see kind of how the game flows, then you should check out the video that I created already for that with Paxton's supervision, of course. And, if you like my videos, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. And with that, let's deep dive into how the game works. All right, and we're just going to do a fairly quick run through of how the game works. It's fairly straightforward. In this game, you're diving, you're starting in the shallowest depths, and there's 5 depths. And as you go down, your goal is to collect food, and there's lower point food at the top and higher point food at the bottom. It's kind of 1s and 2s up here and 8, 9, 10 down here and in between. But there are more predators at the bottom and less as you go to the top. So as you go down, there's more risk, but there's also more reward. So that's the quintessential nature of the pressure luck game. So for purposes of explanation, I'm kind of starting the game as if it's in the middle of it. On your turn, you really have basically 2 options. You can take a face-up tile in the level that you're at, or you can turn one over to go to a deeper level. So for example, if it were my turn on this shallowest depth, you always have to start at the top and go down. I could either take one of these tiles, either 1 or 2 point tiles of different colors. And if I were to take that, then that would end my turn. It would go into my score tableau. Or if I wanted to go deeper, I have to turn over one of these tiles. And as long as it's not a predator, then I can move to the next level. So then I have the same choice at each of these levels. So I can either take one of these face up, the 2 or 3 of red there, or if I want to go deeper, then I can turn over a tile. If I turn over a food tile, not a predator, then I can move to the next level. And you kind of rinse and repeat. And then I can keep going and work my way down to the bottom level, where maybe I'll get lucky and get, there we go, a 9-point food tile. But there's a couple of other wrinkles. One you see here, this is called an open water tile. If you turn one of these over when you're choosing to turn over to try to go to the next level, you have to go to the next level. And then the third type of tile, so we have food and then the open water, is a rock tile. If I turn one of these over, it's just like a food tile in that I can either take the rock or I can move on to the next level. If I take the rock into my hand, my turn is over, just like as if I took a food tile and play passes, but on a future turn, I can use my rock tile. It gets used as an item and discarded from the game, and I can then jump to any level I want. So I can skip all the risk in there and go down here, but of course there is risk because there's greater predators there, but that's a choice you can make to try to mine for some of the greater point values down here. Or if there's a face-up tile down here that's a higher number tile that you need, then you can jump down there and take that face-up tile. And then the last type of tile is a predator tile. When you turn one of these over, you have to put one of your penguins on it, and that penguin is trapped, and turn moves on. So say I have 2 penguins already on predator tiles. Now, the benefit of having a penguin trapped by one of these is they are distracting the predator at that level. So you can actually skip that level. So if it were my turn and I had one trapped at the first level, I can actually start at this level, and then I have that same choice of either grabbing one of these food tiles or turning over another one to keep going. Now, the interesting thing in this case is if I turn one of these over, then I have this level. If I have a penguin trapped here, I can also skip this level and go all the way down to the 4th level. So it creates kind of a highway, express service down to the deepest levels. But when I get a 3rd penguin trap, say I made it all the way down here to the bottom, and I turn over this predator tile, your penguins immediately retreat at the end of that turn. But the benefit is that you, from one of the levels where one of your penguins are trapped, you can take a face-up food tile. So in this case, I would likely take this 3 of green because it's the highest point value that I can take. There are no food tiles face up here or rock tiles. You could also take a rock tile. So that's the quick and dirty of the basics of the gameplay. Now, as far as scoring, when you bring one of the food tiles into your tableau as your turn, then they go in one of 3 columns by color. So there would be a green column, a yellow column, and a red column. And they always go down no matter how many you get. So if I grab a 2nd green, it goes underneath that green. If I grab a 3rd green, it goes there. And that's same with all of them. You just always go straight down the row. And what that means for scoring is you have to have a complete row of the 3 different colors, and it doesn't matter what kind of food tile it is, what kind of creature that you have, whether it's a crab or shrimp or whatever, but you then get full scoring for that. So this is a 2, 2, 3. So in this case, I would get 7. However, any rows that are incomplete, you add up that score and divide by 2, rounding down. So in this case, I have only a 3 in the 2nd row. So at the end of the game, this would be worth 1.5. But you round down, so it's actually only worth 1. And then this 2 tile would only also be worth 1 because it's an incomplete row. So managing what you're picking up, especially as the end game is approaching, and especially if you have one of these high point creatures in there. So for example, if I pulled this green one now, I would have to complete all of these rows in order to get that full effect of the 9. Play proceeds until one of the levels has all of the tiles face up. And then when that happens, whenever it gets back around to the first player, then the first player turns over this first player token to the last dive, and then everyone has one last turn. And that's true even if the first player turns over the last tile in one level, it still comes around back to them before they turn this over. Once everyone has taken their last dive, you add up the points based on the rules I mentioned, and highest score wins. And so at Tabletop Toby, we talk about the 3 T's. We talk about table presence, which is the art, the components, how the theme kind of fits with the gameplay. We talk about tactics, which are how the game plays, how the kind of turn flow is. Is the game more strategic planning ahead? Is it more tactical reactive? Is there asymmetry? Those kinds of things. And then we also talk about teamwork, which for us means how it plays at the different player counts. How is it as a solo game? Is there a cooperative element, which there definitely is not in this case. In this case, it's how it plays up to 6 players and all the in between. So we'll talk about that. All right, first on table presence. So we have the wooden penguin figures. I think these are great. I love the vibrant colors that they chose. It's great that they have the 3 different silhouettes of the penguin. It just adds a kind of fun. The fact that one of them is the sliding on its tummy. I think those are really great. I think the cardboard for the tiles is very thick. It's nice. It's going to hold up to repeated plays. The art is, very simple, very functional in terms of having kind of the orange different color for the predators. So that's clear. The one thing here that I have to mention as a negative is something that came up in several playthroughs with other people, is that especially in different lighting conditions, this green and this yellow are not distinguished enough that people had issues with it. People would say, is this the green? Is this the yellow? I think as we would continue playing, they kind of figured it out, but it came up enough that it was the biggest question that I got. It wasn't about the rules, it was about that. So I feel like it's worth mentioning. All right, and then we talk about tactics. So for this, there's choices are fairly straightforward in this game. It's really, are you going to take the easy points or are you going to keep going deeper? You can choose whether you have the rocks and maybe save those to try to get like deeper points, but you can just as easily get caught by a predator down there because the risk is higher. So there's a cost to that too. It's all in the end going to come down to the luck and how far you want to press it. And and I think there's not that next layer of depth with this. There is some choices in terms of building out your scoring tableau. And okay, I'm going to back off the risk because I got a 10.1, and so I want to complete the row so I get the full points for that. Then also there's watching other players and kind of seeing where their points are coming in, and maybe, I've got to go deeper and try to get some bigger points. And if I don't, I'm not going to win the game. So you have those kind of components, but it's fairly straightforward. And I think that's what the game intends to be. It intends to be that easy to bring out family game. I've played this with my parents and they totally got it. And within one game, and we were ready to do another one. And a couple of questions here and there, and that was it. And I think that's great. And so the thing is, I guess for me, I tend to love heavier games, but I love playing party games with other people as well. With this one, it's really, because it's the kind of one trick pressure luck kind of mechanic, it's a 1 or 2 playthroughs at a time. You're not going to want to sit, at least with the same people. If you're rotating some people in, maybe you'll do more plays, but you play 1 or 2 times and you're ready to kind of move on to something else, or maybe you do it at the end of game night. I think it really fits in that filler, family-friendly kind of, socket really well. But there's just not that longevity. You're not going to spend, a couple hours playing this game. And once again, I don't think that's what they wanted, but that's just something to note. It serves a particular function. It's very affordable. It's very easy to explain to people, and that's what it does. And I think that's what it was designed to do. Finally, let's talk about the third T, teamwork. So this is how it plays at the different player counts, whether there's a co-op aspect or not. And there's definitely not a co-op aspect in this one. It's definitely competitive. I'll start with solo player. That's the most, I wouldn't say it was negative, but I don't think it's a great solo player game. It's definitely easy to set up and easy to do, and it's kind of fun to play the puzzle a little bit, but because there is so much on luck, and you can manage that, I think, in the solo mode, because of, if you do watch my how to play, it talks about specifically how it works, but each round the AI kind of goes through, so you know where it's going to hit next, so you can try to prevent it from getting certain face up tiles. But it may just turn over a large point one just like another player, so it just doesn't have that longevity. I've played it several times. I enjoyed it, especially as I was learning to play the game, but I don't see playing it solo really in the future. So I would say, if you have it, check it out for that, but I wouldn't buy this game as a solo player game. I think at 2, it's a little slow. It's not as exciting. I think 3 is where it really kind of hits its stride. I think it's fun at 3. But I think even better is the 4, 5, 6. When you get to 4, 5, and 6, you really have more people to play off of, more people to watch and see how they're doing and be jealous of and resent. Or, if you like them and you want to date them, then maybe you're excited for them. But, that's really where I think this game shines. So that would be my recommendation, but I think it's really fun at 3 as well. I've played it with my parents several times, and I think I will do that sometimes when I have coffee with them and like, hey, let's pull it out, because it is so easy to set up and do, and you get a kind of quick laugh. And so I think it works for that. But 4, 5, and 6 is definitely where this game is at. You get a 5 or 6 player game, and there's lots of hooting and cheers and jeers as people get high points. And so that's pretty fun. So now we'll move into my unfinal thoughts. I call them unfinal thoughts because your relationship with the game can change as you continue to play it over time. I do think I'll keep this in my collection because it does, like I said, fill that filler party, family friendly, people who aren't as big gamers. You can totally explain to them. It's less than a 5-minute teach. They're just going to have a couple of questions and you answer them once and they totally get it. So it's fantastic for that purpose. I think that's where it's at. I think in the tactics segment, I mentioned that you're going to play it 1 or 2 times, and that's going to be probably enough for that night. Either at the beginning or the end, I think is ideal, or maybe in between a couple of other games. There's other games that maybe require greater teach, but have greater longevity. But that's not what this was intending to be. And so for that reason, it's a little difficult for me to rate because I think it serves the function and intends really well. But I think because it doesn't have just a tiny bit of that next level of strategy or replayability in a single evening, I think I'm going to fall at a 7. I almost want to give it a 7.5, but I promised myself when I started this channel I was not going to do 0.5s and 0.25s. I was going to stick with whole numbers. So I'm going to stick with whole numbers and say 7, which is good. I think this is a good game. I think it's a lot of fun. I think you're going to have fun with your family and friends, especially those who aren't gamers. And I've played it with people that are hardcore gamers after we, burned our brains a little bit and just wanted something a little lighter to kind of rinse ourselves off. And I think it's great for that too. So I think it's a solid game. And if it sounds of interest to you in terms of the pressure luck and the party and the easy to teach, then I say go for it. But those are my thoughts. I think it's a really good entry into the pressure luck kind of genre. And so thank you for being here. And, like and subscribe if you don't want to be attacked by this really angry seal who told me that he would if you didn't. Or not, that's fine too. But it is appreciated. So thank you for being here. And just remember, the only rule is that there are no rules except in board games.